I sat at my desk, staring at my computer screen, completely zoned out. The day was slow at the office, typical for a Friday afternoon. I should have been excited for the weekend, right? Most people are, but not me, not today. Today, I had that gnawing feeling in the pit of my stomach that something was wrong, like I was missing a piece of the puzzle. I just didn't know how big the missing piece was yet. My phone buzzed. I reached for it, half hoping it was the notification that would distract me from my uneasiness. It was a text from Ashley, my wife of 5 years. "We need to talk when you get home." The words hit me like a sledgehammer. Everyone knows nothing good ever follows those 5 little words. I stared at the text for a few seconds longer than I should have, trying to decipher the meaning behind it, but I didn't reply. I couldn't. My mind went into overdrive. What could it be? Had she gotten laid off? Was she upset about something I did? Deep down, though, something darker started to fester. I could feel it gnawing at the edges of my thoughts, a growing suspicion that this conversation wouldn't be about anything trivial. Ashley had always been secretive lately, more distant. She worked long hours as an event planner, always on the go, always busy. At 32, she was ambitious and driven, constantly juggling client meetings and elaborate functions. But for the past few months, she had seemed more distracted than usual. Phone calls she'd take in the other room, late-night texts she never let me see, and that occasional nervous glance when I asked about her day. I thought it was just the stress of her job, but now, sitting there in my cramped office cubicle, I couldn't ignore that familiar sense of dread tightening around my chest. I had to leave early. No way I was making it through the rest of the day with that bombshell hanging over my head. I grabbed my jacket and mumbled something about feeling sick to my boss. He barely glanced up from his screen, waving me off as I bolted for the exit. The entire drive home, my mind raced with scenarios, none of them good. Maybe she's just stressed. Maybe it's nothing serious. Maybe I'm overthinking. As I pulled into our driveway, my heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. I took a deep breath, bracing myself for whatever was about to happen. I walked through the front door of our 2-story suburban home, the one we had bought together 3 years ago, the one where we planned to start our family. But today, the house felt different, quieter, cold, even. Ashley sat on the couch, her face pale and her hands nervously fidgeting with the hem of her blouse. She didn't even look up when I entered, which only made my anxiety spike. "Ash," I called out softly, my voice catching in my throat. She looked up then, eyes red, like she'd been crying for hours. That was when I knew this wasn't going to be a normal conversation. I sat down in front of her, waiting for her to speak. She took a deep breath, but no words came out at first. Instead, there was this heavy silence between us, like we were both standing on the edge of some massive cliff, unsure whether we'd survive the fall. Finally, she spoke, her voice cracking. "James, I don't know how to say this." "What is it?" I asked, trying to keep my tone steady, though my insides were anything but. Her eyes welled up with tears, and she couldn't meet my gaze. "I've been seeing someone else." Time stopped. The words echoed in my mind as if they'd been spoken from miles away. She had been seeing someone else. It felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't react. For a moment, I wondered if I was still awake. This couldn't be real. Not Ashley, not the woman I'd loved since we were 22, fresh out of college, with our whole lives ahead of us. "Ashley, what are you saying?" My voice trembled as I tried to grasp what she was admitting to. Her hands flew to her face, sobbing uncontrollably. She didn't even try to deny it. "It was a mistake, James. A huge mistake. I didn't mean for it to happen." "How long?" I managed to choke out, bile rising in my throat. 6 months, she whispered. 6 months. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. For half a year, she had been living a lie. All the late nights, the unexplained absences, it all made sense now. "Who is he?" My voice hardened. I didn't recognize myself in that moment. There was this anger building in me, but beneath it was something worse. Fear. What if he was someone I knew? She hesitated, then finally spoke. "His name's Ryan. He's one of my clients." Of course, a client. Someone from her work, the place where I thought she was just stressed and overworked. The same job I supported her through, even when it meant I barely saw her. I leaned back, trying to process what she was saying. "Is it over?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. She paused, and her hesitation told me everything I needed to know. "Ashley, are you still seeing him?" My voice cracked. Then came the final blow. "I'm pregnant," she whispered, the words barely audible. I felt like the world shattered around me. My vision blurred. Pregnant? Pregnant by another man? Everything stopped making sense. The room tilted. I was drowning in a sea of betrayal, anger, and confusion. But one thing rose above the chaos: this was my breaking point. But she wasn't done. "James, I'm sorry. I made a terrible mistake, but I want to fix this. I want us to stay together, raise the baby," she sobbed, reaching for my hand. I pulled away instinctively. "Are you out of your mind?" I finally exploded, the shock giving way to sheer rage. "You want me to help raise his baby, after you lied to me, cheated on me for 6 months? Tears streamed down her face, but I didn't care. I couldn't care. She had just dropped a nuclear bomb on our marriage, and now she wanted me to pick up the pieces. "I love you, James," she sobbed. "I love us. I didn't mean for any of this to happen." But her words felt hollow. She loved me? She destroyed everything we had, and now she was asking me to forgive her? To raise another man's child? I stared at her, unable to find the right words. Everything was broken, and there was no going back. The life we had built, the future we had planned, it was all gone. The only thing I knew for certain was that this was far from over. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. After Ashley dropped the bomb about her affair and pregnancy, I had left the house. No dramatic door slamming, no shouting. I just walked out, got in my car, and drove around aimlessly until it was dark. The city lights blurred past as I replayed her words over and over, as if they might change if I thought about them long enough. 6 months. She's pregnant. With someone else's child. My mind was like a broken record, stuck on repeat, and I was spiraling. After hours of driving and fighting the urge to either scream or punch something, I finally parked at a hotel for the night. But sleep? No, that didn't happen. My body was exhausted, but my mind was wide awake, taunted by the images of her with this man, this Ryan, and her pregnant belly. It was around 4 a.m. when my phone buzzed. I almost ignored it, but the buzzing persisted, like an itch I couldn't scratch. I rolled over in the stiff hotel bed, grabbing my phone, and there it was, a message from Ashley. "Please come home, James. We need to talk more. I need to explain everything." Explain? Was there more? Hadn't she already told me the worst of it? I stared at the text, my fingers hovering over the screen. I should have blocked her. I should have thrown my phone across the room. Instead, I found myself driving back home before sunrise. I don't know what I expected when I got there. Maybe some magical explanation that would make it all go away, that would erase the fact that my wife was pregnant with another man's child. Or maybe I wanted her to say something so outrageous that it would solidify my decision to walk away for good. The house was eerily silent when I got back. Ashley sat at the kitchen table, nursing a mug of tea, her eyes red from crying. For a moment, I thought about how we used to sit at that same table on Sunday mornings, laughing over breakfast. Now it felt like a stranger's house. She looked up at me, wiping her tear-streaked face with the back of her hand. "Thank you for coming back," she said softly. I didn't respond. Instead, I pulled out a chair across from her, staring at her, waiting. I wasn't here for reconciliation. I was here for the truth. "Why?" I finally asked, my voice cold and distant. "Why did you do it, Ash? We were supposed to be a team. What made you throw it all away for some random guy?" Her hands trembled as she gripped the mug, and for a moment, she didn't respond. "It wasn't supposed to be like this," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "It was never supposed to get this far." I felt a flash of anger rise in my chest. "Then why the hell did you let it? 6 months. You've been lying to me, betraying me, for half a year, Ashley. How can you sit there and act like this was some kind of accident?" She took a shaky breath, setting down the mug. He was different. He gave me attention, James. He made me feel wanted. Wanted? The word hit me like a ton of bricks. Wasn't that what I was doing all these years? We'd had our rough patches, every couple does, but I loved her, and I thought she loved me back. Was I that blind? Was I not enough? She continued, her voice thick with guilt. "It started after that big corporate event I was planning in February. He was one of the clients. At first, it was just harmless flirting, but then it became something more. I never meant for it to turn into a full-blown affair, but I was in too deep before I even realized what was happening." I clenched my fists under the table, trying to control the fury bubbling inside. "And now you're pregnant," I said bluntly. She nodded, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks. "It wasn't supposed to go this far, James. I swear, I never meant to hurt you. I thought I could end it before anyone got hurt, but when I found out I was pregnant, I panicked." "So, you were going to hide this?" My voice was growing louder, angrier. "You were going to keep lying to me until it was too late, is that it?" She sobbed harder, unable to look at me. I didn't know what to do. I was scared, James. I still love you, I do, but I didn't know how to tell you the truth. I stood up, unable to sit there any longer, pacing around the room as I tried to make sense of everything. So, what now, Ashley? What do you want from me? You're pregnant with another man's baby. What are you expecting me to do? I don't know, she whispered, her voice breaking. I don't know, James. I just don't want to lose you. We can fix this. We can get through this. Maybe we could raise the baby together. That was it. That was my breaking point. The room went silent for a moment before I burst out laughing, a bitter, angry laugh that sounded nothing like me. You want me to raise another man's child? Are you insane? I'm not asking for miracles, she pleaded, standing up and reaching for me. I just don't want to lose you. I love you, James. We can work through this. Please, we can make it work. But before I could respond, before I could lay into her with the full force of my anger, the doorbell rang. Ashley froze, her eyes wide, and in that instant, I saw the fear flash across her face. She wasn't expecting anyone. I'll get it, I muttered, still fuming, storming toward the door. When I opened it, there he was, Ryan, standing on my front porch. He was tall, clean-cut, and looked to be about 35, the exact kind of guy you'd expect someone like Ashley to be drawn to. But what I didn't expect was the look on his face. He wasn't there to talk. He wasn't there to apologize. He was there because he had no idea Ashley had told me about him or the baby. Is Ashley here? He asked casually, like he was just stopping by for a coffee. The nerve. I turned and looked back at her, my eyes burning with rage. You didn't tell him, did you? Ashley's face paled. James, please, But before she could say another word, Ryan shoved past me, barging into the house. What the hell is going on here, Ash? Who the hell is this guy? He looked me up and down, clearly not expecting me to be there. Oh, I'm nobody, I said, crossing my arms, sarcasm dripping from every word. Just her husband. Ryan's face fell. What? Yeah, I continued, letting the rage flow freely now. Her husband. And guess what? She's been hiding more from you than you think. I turned to Ashley, my voice cold as ice. You didn't tell him you were married, or that you're pregnant with his child? Ryan looked from me to Ashley, his face a mix of shock and betrayal. Ash, you told me you were single. The truth was out now, hanging in the air like a dark, toxic cloud. Ashley had lied to both of us. Suddenly, the game had changed. The silence that enveloped the room was thick enough to cut through. Ryan stood there, rooted in disbelief, his face shifting from anger to confusion as he processed what I'd just thrown at him. I could feel Ashley's panic radiating off her, her hands trembling as she glanced between us like a tennis match. I stepped forward, ready to let loose all the pent-up frustration I'd been holding back since Ashley dropped the bomb about her pregnancy. What were you expecting, Ryan? Did you think you could just sweep her off her feet, and she'd leave me without consequences? You think this is some sort of game? Ryan's jaw clenched, his blue eyes flashing with anger. I didn't know you existed, man. She told me she was single. We'd been together 4 months. I didn't ask her to be with you. Months? The word slipped out like a curse. You've been with my wife 4 months, and you didn't think to ask her if she was married? Or maybe check if she had a family? Ryan shook his head, frustration etched across his face. That's not how this works. She made her choice. Ashley, caught in the crossfire, finally found her voice. Stop it, both of you. This isn't helping. She turned to me, desperation lacing her tone. James, please, this isn't Ryan's fault. I made the choice to be with him. I lied to you both. I thought I could manage it. I didn't want to hurt anyone. I laughed bitterly, shaking my head in disbelief. Manage it? You thought you could juggle 2 lives without anyone getting hurt? You're pregnant with another man's child, Ashley. This isn't some petty affair, this is a full-on disaster. Okay. Ryan stepped forward, trying to assert himself. I'm not here to fight you. I didn't come here for this drama. I just wanted to see her and... See her? I interrupted, unable to contain my rage. You don't get to just stroll in and act like you have any claim on her. You don't get to play the victim here. Ashley stood between us, hands raised in a gesture of peace. Please, let's just calm down. We need to talk about this. All of us. We need to figure out what's next. What's next? I scoffed, my voice dripping with sarcasm. What's next is you telling me how this whole mess is going to work. You're going to raise another man's child while you're still married to me? Ryan's face paled as he took a step back, realization dawning on him. Wait, what do you mean another man's child? Are you serious? I shot him a glare. Yeah, seriously. The child you think you're going to raise with my wife, guess what? It's my wife's. James, stop it. Ashley cried, her voice rising in pitch. Please, you don't know everything. There's something you need to understand about Ryan and me. Enlighten me, then, I challenged, crossing my arms and leaning back against the kitchen counter, my heart pounding in my chest. She looked at Ryan, who nodded, his expression shifting from anger to concern. We can explain, but it's not easy to say, Ashley continued, her voice trembling. James, you have to understand. I didn't just sleep with Ryan because I was bored or unhappy. There's more to it than that. Then spill it, Ashley, I snapped, the frustration boiling over. What's your excuse? I was feeling suffocated, she admitted, tears streaming down her face. We had a beautiful life together, but everything became routine. I started to feel invisible. When Ryan entered the picture, he made me feel seen again. I got caught up in the excitement and thrill of it all. It wasn't just sex, it was an escape. An escape? I shook my head in disbelief. So you decided to destroy everything we built together? You chose to cheat on me instead of talking to me? I didn't think I would fall for him, she cried out, her hands clenching into fists. And now I don't know what to do. I'm scared, James. I'm scared for this baby. I'm scared of what this means for us. And what about me? I yelled, the bitterness spilling out. What about how you've turned my life upside down? I know, she shouted back, tears flowing freely now. But listen, I've realized how stupid I've been. I don't want to lose you. I want to make things right, but I need you to help me figure out how to do that. Ryan glanced between us, clearly uncomfortable. Maybe I shouldn't be here, he said cautiously. If this is about the two of you, I don't want to intrude. No, I snapped, not wanting to give him an out. You're part of this now. You can't just run away from the consequences of your actions. You've been playing house with my wife for months, and now we're all in this mess together. Ashley's gaze shifted to Ryan, and I saw the fear in her eyes. What if we all sit down and figure this out together? She proposed hesitantly. I know it sounds crazy, but what if we could come to some sort of agreement? For the baby's sake? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You want to have a family meeting with the guy who's been sleeping with you behind my back. What's next? A picnic? James, Ashley exclaimed, her voice filled with frustration. This isn't just about you and me anymore. We have a child to think about. We need to be adults here. Adults? I barked a laugh, my heart racing as my emotions twisted in knots. You think this is how adults handle situations? By pretending everything is okay? This isn't a board meeting, this is my life. Then let's make it better, Ashley pleaded. I don't want to hurt you, James. I never wanted to hurt you. Can we just try to be rational? I looked from her to Ryan, who was still trying to process everything, and back to Ashley, whose eyes were pleading with me. But deep down, I knew that there was no rational conversation to be had here. Fine, I finally relented, my voice low. We'll talk, but don't think for a second that I'm going to sit here and pretend like this is okay. Ryan nodded slowly, stepping closer, a look of determination crossing his face. I want to be part of this conversation, too. I have responsibilities now. I didn't ask for this, but if there's a baby involved, I'm willing to step up. I just want to do what's best for that child. That declaration hit me like a slap. Best for the child? The irony was almost too much to bear. Here I was, fighting for my family, and Ryan was already stepping into a role that should have been mine by default. Ashley's face softened, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. Thank you, Ryan. I know this isn't easy for you, but it's a start. Let's just get one thing clear, I interjected, the bitterness still simmering beneath the surface. I'm not going to let you two dictate my life. This child doesn't change what happened between us. You broke my trust, Ashley, and that's not going to be repaired overnight. Ryan nodded solemnly. I understand. I didn't mean to come in here and complicate things further. I want to be a good father. I don't want to step on anyone's toes. As we all stood there in a tense standoff, I felt the weight of the situation pressing down on my chest. The path ahead was murky, littered with betrayals and shattered trust. How did we get here? But there was one thing I knew for sure, this wouldn't end easily. Secrets would emerge, emotions would boil over, and somewhere amid this mess, I needed to find a way to reclaim my life. Just when I thought the situation couldn't get any more complicated, the sound of Ashley's phone buzzing on the table cut through the tension. She glanced down, her face going pale as she picked it up, revealing the name on the screen, Ryan's fiancée. What's she doing texting you at this hour? I shot, my voice rising again. What did you tell her? Ashley opened her mouth to respond, but before she could say anything, I could see the truth hit Ryan like a freight train. His expression morphed into one of horror. I can explain, she started, but the words fell flat as Ryan's expression hardened, a storm brewing in his eyes. "You lied to me too," he said slowly, his voice barely a whisper. "You told me you were single, Ash. You told me you didn't have a fiancé." Ashley's eyes widened as she looked from Ryan to me. "Wait. I didn't mean," but it was too late. The air was thick with betrayal, and I knew that this was only the beginning of a reckoning that was bound to tear everything apart. "Let's see where this goes, then," I said with a chilling calm, feeling the pieces of our lives collide around us like shattered glass. This was going to be one hell of a fight, and I was ready for the battle. The storm that had settled over us was deafening. In the following days, the fallout from that confrontation felt like an explosion that shattered everything we once knew. My phone buzzed incessantly, each notification a reminder that life as I knew it was spiraling out of control. News of Ashley's infidelity and the impending child traveled fast, and with it came the judgment and pity of friends and family alike. I'd never anticipated how quickly the walls would close in around me. It felt like I was living in a reality show where everyone was a critic, scrutinizing every misstep I made. The hushed whispers at work, the awkward glances from friends, I was drowning in a sea of embarrassment and betrayal. My mind raced as I tried to piece together what had happened. I was flooded with anger at Ashley for her choices, at Ryan for stepping into my life like a thief in the night, but mostly, I was angry at myself for allowing this to happen. How had I become the man standing on the sidelines, watching my life unravel? One night, after an exhausting day, I decided to confront Ashley again. I could hear her voice in the living room, talking softly on the phone, probably with Ryan. I felt a surge of rage. The audacity of it all, my wife, my partner, discussing our broken marriage with the man who'd helped break it. I inhaled deeply, steeling myself for the inevitable confrontation. As I stepped into the living room, I found her sitting on the couch, her hair falling over her face like a curtain hiding her emotions. She looked up as I entered, her face a mask of uncertainty and fear. "James," she began, but I cut her off. "Who are you talking to?" I asked, my voice sharper than intended. "Just Ryan," she replied, glancing at her phone, the tension palpable in the air. "He was checking in. We're trying to figure things out." "Figure things out?" I echoed incredulously. "What is there to figure out, Ashley? You've already made your choice. You've chosen him over me." She flinched as if I had physically struck her. "That's not fair. I'm trying to handle this as best as I can. I'm scared, James. I don't know what to do." "Scared?" I shot back. "You think I'm not scared? You think I wanted any of this? You brought this on yourself." As the words left my mouth, I could see the tears pooling in her eyes. "Please, can we just talk about this rationally? I'm not here to fight, I want to fix this. I love you, James. I still love you." Hearing her say it felt like a dagger to my heart. Love? How could she claim love after everything that had happened? You don't get to just say that and expect everything to go back to normal. You've betrayed me, Ashley. You've shattered my trust. Do you even understand how that feels? "I know," she replied, her voice breaking, "and I hate myself for it. But the baby, James, it changes everything." "No, it doesn't," I shouted, the anger boiling over again. "You think I care about that? You think bringing a child into this mess makes it better? It's just more complicated. It's a reminder of your betrayal." Silence filled the room, and for a moment, I thought she might break. But then she squared her shoulders, her eyes hardening. "You don't get to dictate how I feel about this. I'm scared, yes, but I also want to make this right. I want to figure out how we can still be a family, even with this child." "Family?" I scoffed, my heart racing with indignation. "You've torn our family apart. You think adding another person to this mess makes us a family? You're living in a fantasy." Her eyes narrowed, and I could see the fight in her rising. "What do you want from me, James? Do you want me to beg? Because I will. I will do anything to make this work if you'll just give me a chance." "Anything?" I echoed, intrigued by the desperation in her voice. "What does that mean, exactly?" "I'm willing to cut ties with Ryan," she said, her voice trembling but steady. "I will do whatever it takes to prove to you that I want us back. I want our life, James. I don't want to lose you." I felt my resolve wavering, but I couldn't let her see that. "You think it's that simple? You think I can just forget what you've done because you say you're sorry?" "No," she replied quietly, her eyes brimming with tears. "I don't expect you to forgive me right away. I just want a chance to show you I can be better, that I can fix this." I took a deep breath, running my fingers through my hair. My mind was racing, torn between my heart and my anger. "What about Ryan?" I asked, my voice dropping. "What happens to him? You can't just pretend he doesn't exist." "I'll tell him it's over," she promised, her eyes pleading. I'll make it clear that I want to be with you. He doesn't deserve to be caught up in our mess. I don't want to hurt him, but he's not the one I love. You are." The sincerity in her voice tugged at my heartstrings, but I couldn't shake the anger that coursed through me. "You might have feelings for me, but how do I know you won't fall back into his arms when things get tough?" "I won't," she said fiercely. "I promise you, I will fight for us. I will fight for our family. I'll do whatever it takes to rebuild your trust." I wanted to believe her. I wanted to embrace the idea of a future where we could heal together, but the reality of our situation loomed large. "You have to understand that this is going to take time. It won't happen overnight, Ashley. You've broken me." "Then let's start now," she urged, her eyes locked on mine. "Let's take small steps. We can go to counseling, talk it through, and work on our communication. I want to be honest with you, no more lies." "Counseling?" I scoffed, feeling a mix of skepticism and hope. "You think sitting in a room with a stranger will fix this?" "It's a start," she insisted, her voice steady. "I don't want to lose you. I can't lose you." As I watched her, I felt a flicker of hope rise within me, but it was quickly extinguished by the reality of our situation. The hurt was still fresh, and trusting her again would be like trying to rebuild a house after it had burned to the ground. "Okay," I finally relented, the words heavy on my tongue. "We'll try counseling, but this is your last chance. If you screw this up, I'm done." She nodded vigorously, relief washing over her face. "Thank you, James. I promise I won't waste it. I'll fight for us every step of the way." As she spoke, I felt a mix of emotions swirling inside me. I wanted to believe her, but doubt lingered in the back of my mind, whispering that this could all be another lie. "I need some time to think," I said, breaking the intensity of the moment. "I'll let you know when I'm ready to talk about the next steps." Ashley nodded, her eyes shimmering with hope. "Thank you. Just don't give up on us." As I left the living room, I felt like a weight had been lifted, but also a new burden settling on my shoulders. This journey was going to be long and filled with obstacles, but maybe, just maybe, it could lead us back to each other. Days turned into weeks, and with every passing moment, I was reminded of the uphill battle ahead. The emotional scars were still raw, but I wanted to give Ashley a chance to prove herself. As we both prepared for counseling, I felt the hope I once thought was lost flickering back to life. However, just when I thought we were finally taking steps toward reconciliation, another text message from Ryan shattered that fragile hope. The message read, "Ashley, we need to talk. I'm not letting you go without a fight." Suddenly, everything felt uncertain again. The twists of our lives were only beginning to unravel, and I braced myself for the inevitable storm. Would this battle for love be worth it, or would it all crumble beneath the weight of our mistakes? I was about to find out. The moment I read Ryan's message, a cold wave of dread washed over me. "We need to talk." What more could he possibly want? My heart raced, and my mind whirled with images of what could happen if Ashley's past choices caught up to her. I felt the air grow heavy around me, and I could barely breathe. Ashley was in the kitchen, trying to prepare dinner, a cheerful tune humming from her lips as if nothing was amiss. It was surreal, this juxtaposition of her bright demeanor and the dark cloud looming over us. I forced myself to remain calm as I walked into the kitchen, trying to process my emotions. "Hey, can we talk?" I said, my voice steady but strained. "Of course, what's up?" she replied, a hint of warmth in her smile, unaware of the storm brewing in my heart. "Ryan just texted me," I said, trying to keep my tone neutral. "He wants to talk." Her smile faded, and her face turned pale. "Oh." She paused, her eyes darting around the kitchen as if searching for an escape. "What did he say?" "He said he's not letting you go without a fight." My heart sank, watching her reaction closely. I could see the fear etched on her face, but beneath it was something else. Was that guilt? "James, don't," I interrupted. "You've made your choices, Ashley. You can't expect me to just brush this aside. You need to be honest with me. What did you tell him when you ended things?" "I told him I wanted to focus on my family," she admitted, her voice trembling. "But he won't let go easily. I'm scared he'll try to come between us." "Scared?" I echoed incredulously. "You're scared? What about me? I'm the one who's been betrayed, who's been left hanging by the one person I trusted most." I know, she pleaded, tears welling in her eyes. "I messed up, but I want to fix this. You have to believe that." As she stood before me, desperate for my understanding, I felt a glimmer of sympathy. I wanted to believe in her sincerity, but the reality of the situation loomed over us like an insurmountable mountain. "Fine," I said finally, my voice low. "We'll have to address this together. If he reaches out again, you need to be honest with him about wanting to work on our marriage. No more games." Ashley nodded vigorously, wiping away a tear. I promise. I'll make it clear that it's over with him. But in my heart, a nagging doubt lingered. What if she couldn't? What if Ryan was right? The thought of losing her again, this time to someone who had already stolen her heart, made my stomach churn. The days passed in a blur, each one filled with tension. Ashley and I attended counseling sessions, where we navigated the murky waters of our broken trust. I tried to remain open-minded, but every time she looked at me with that pleading expression, I felt the anger welling inside. How could she want me after what she'd done? Our sessions were exhausting. We revisited painful memories and confronted issues we had buried deep. I was learning to express my feelings, to be vulnerable, but it felt like an uphill battle. Ashley did her best to prove her commitment, yet every time she left the room, I couldn't shake the feeling that she might still be communicating with Ryan. One evening, after a particularly grueling session, I returned home to find Ashley sitting on the couch, her phone clutched tightly in her hand. "Hey, can we talk?" she asked, her voice shaky. "Sure, what's going on?" I replied, bracing myself for the unexpected. She hesitated, her eyes flickering with uncertainty. "I got a message from Ryan. He wants to meet in person." My heart dropped. "Why now? What do you mean he wants to meet?" "James, he said he needs closure. That we need to talk about everything that happened between us," she said, her voice trembling. I felt my stomach twist in knots. "And what do you want? To meet him? To hear him out?" "No, I don't want to see him," she insisted. "I just didn't want to keep it from you. I need you to trust me." "Trust you?" I laughed bitterly, the words tumbling out before I could catch them. "Trust is a fragile thing, Ashley. You've already shattered it." "I know," she whispered, tears pooling in her eyes. "But I'm trying. I want to prove to you that I can be the woman you deserve." "Then what's stopping you from cutting all ties with him? You keep saying you want to make things right, but here you are, contemplating meeting the man who hurt us both." "I didn't want to hide it from you," she exclaimed, her voice rising. "I wanted to be honest about it. I thought it would help." "Help? How is meeting him going to help? It's just opening old wounds." My voice rose with each word, and I could feel the walls closing in around us. "I don't know," she shouted, frustration spilling over. "But I'm terrified of losing you. I thought that if we could talk about it openly, maybe it would help us move forward." I threw my hands up in exasperation. "You think keeping this a secret is going to help? You've already pushed me away by even considering this." Her expression shifted, and suddenly, she looked smaller, defeated. "I'm sorry, James. I thought I was doing the right thing, but I realize now that I was just making it worse." I took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm inside me. "You need to understand how serious this is. If you go and meet him, I don't know if I can stay. It will feel like you're choosing him over me again." "I'm not," she cried, desperation in her eyes. "I want you. You have to believe that. Then you need to put him behind you. No more contact, no more meetings. If you're serious about us, you have to make that choice." Silence enveloped us as we stared at each other, the weight of our situation heavy in the air. It was a crossroads, a pivotal moment that would determine our future. Ashley bit her lip, contemplating her next move. "Okay," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I won't meet him. I'll cut all ties. I'll prove to you that I want this. I want us." Relief washed over me, but it was laced with uncertainty. I wanted to trust her, but after everything, it was hard. "You need to promise me," I pressed, locking eyes with her. "No more secrets." "I promise," she said, her voice firm. "I'll tell him that I'm done. I'll block him if I have to." As we sat there, an uneasy calm settled over the room. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but perhaps we could begin to rebuild our lives together. I was willing to fight, but I needed Ashley to meet me halfway. But as we began to forge a new path, the threat of Ryan loomed in the background, an ever-present reminder that our struggles were far from over. Just when I thought we could finally heal, I received another text that would change everything. "Ashley, I know you said it was over, but I'm not giving up on us. Meet me at the old cafe. We need to talk about the baby." My blood ran cold. As Ashley read the message over my shoulder, her eyes widened in panic. "What do we do?" she whispered, the fear creeping back into her voice. I clenched my jaw, my mind racing. "We need to confront this head-on. I won't let him take you away from me again." This was it. The moment of truth had arrived. Would we stand together against this threat, or would Ryan's shadow cast a darkness over our fragile attempts at reconciliation? I wasn't about to let the past dictate our future. It was time to take control and fight for the love we once had, no matter the cost.